Do you ever pull a hero or a champion and you can't decide if they're good or if they're terrible, and the reviews aren't very helpful, so you try to look at YouTube videos and they're all like really outdated from, like a year ago, and things might have changed since then? Well, that's exactly the situation that I ended up in when I pulled Seraphina, this fantastic, lovely looking mage here, and then I proceeded to pull her 5 more times on top of that for a total of 6. So I have her Awaken 5'd, and the reviews in-game are less than unanimous on if she's any good or not. The player ratings aren't, too helpful either. There's people just in here trashing on YouTubers for some reason. There's people telling us that they need the achievement. I don't know if this is just me, but if I see somebody saying like for the achievement, I am instantly not liking your review on the character. I don't care what level you are or how good the gear is. If you're asking for it, I'm not liking it. It's as simple as that. It's just the idea of it. Anyways, this champion I am seeking to showcase today in today's video, and we'll talk about if she's any good or not. And the first thing you'll notice is she doesn't have any gear on. We'll talk about why here in just 1 second. I don't have her fully booked, so that's something to keep in mind. Granted, she is 5. She is Awakened 5, right? So that's something to consider as well. She is an A1 where she deals 100% magic damage when unbooked to one enemy. With my book, she's going to do 105. Very basic, right? She has a passive where each attack or triggered talent effect has a 20% chance of being enhanced. Enhanced basic attack and Mystic Flame, which we'll go over in more depth, deal 60% increased damage and inflict curse. Cursed units are unable to perform basic attacks. So it's a very strong control skill, especially considering it lasts for 4 seconds. And then she has another passive. When 3 stacks of Mystic Flame, she increases her attack by 30%. This is 20% when it's not booked. Finally, her ultimate is a manual ultimate with a 900 cost that lasts for 10 seconds, which is a very, very short ultimate as far as ultimates go inside the game, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So during the ultimate, removes currently charged Mystic Flame and reduces the charge interval of Mystic Flame by 60%. Mystic Flame will be unleashed together only when there are 3 stacks of it. So what is Mystic Flame? We keep seeing it mentioned, right? Well, I'm not going to tell you quite yet because we're going to talk about her talent first. So when no enemies can be targeted, the hero charges Mystic Flame during each attack interval to unleash concurrently later, stacking up to 3 times. If an enemy receives damage from Seraphina 4 times within 1 second, they will receive an extra 200% damage 1 time. So essentially, if she has 3 stacks of Mystic Flame, she's going to absolutely hammer into somebody with it, and then if she attacks them 1 more time, she's going to do an extra 200% damage on top of that, which is pretty crazy. Finally, Mystic Flame, what does it do? Well, upon hitting the enemy, deals damage equal to basic attack 1 time. So if you remember, in her talent, or in her passive, she's going to charge this Mystic Flame up to 3 times, which will be 300% magic damage, essentially, right? When there's nobody she can target. So she kind of gets stronger as enemies slowly cycle in. So ideally, you want her in an area where there's going to be 1 enemy at a time, and they kind of, slowly come at you. So for example, single target arena is a fantastic spot for her, and that's actually where I'll be showcasing her as well. So that in mind, what do her awakenings do? Well, Awaken 1, during the ultimate, the trigger chance of Eternal Hatred increases by 15%. Eternal Hatred, of course, being her one passive here, where it has that 20% chance of being increased, or enhanced rather. Awaken 2 gives her plus 300 attack. Upon the first deployment, increases damage by 40% for 30 seconds on Awaken 3. Penetration plus 8, that's basically just defense ignore in this game. And then Awaken 5 deals 20% increased damage to targets inflicted with Cursed, and restores 2% rage, which is pretty strong, especially considering how low her rage cap is. So why is she naked? And I'm not just talking about the character, I'm also talking about the lack of gear. Well, the reason for that is because I'm going to showcase her inside the single target arena, as you might expect, and I'm going to be showcasing her inside the defense section of it. So this essentially just allows me to go in, consistently fight against enemies that are kind of at my level, and go from there. And the reason why is because I'm going to be comparing her to my Silas. Because Silas, and before you click off the video, okay, give me a second to explain, damn it, alright? Silas is known as one of the best single target damage dealers in the entire game because he can fully penetrate defense during his ultimate, I believe it is. And he's just so good as a single target damage dealer. So it's going to be very hard to find a single target arena team, especially a meta one that does not have a Silas in it, right? So with that in consideration, I think it's very good to compare to him. Of course, these are my Silas stats, so you can kind of get an idea. So almost 13k attack. We got 393 on the speed, 113, and then 335 on the crit rate and crit damage, respectively. Now, he is fully skilled, so that's something to consider, but he is only 1 star awakened, or +1 awakened. So he's going to increase his attack speed by 100. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hop in, and then we're taking his exact same gear, and we're switching it over to Seraphina, so you have as accurate or as fair of a comparison as you can potentially imagine. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead and deploy Cyrene as soon as we can, right here in this slot. And then we're just going to wait until we have enough cost to get our Silas down, which should be pretty quick here. So that is the nice thing about Silas, of course, is he's very low cost. He is the 12 cost like any marksman. So we're going to go ahead and place him down. And you can see he's already going to start doing 29k on the basic attacks, right? So I believe he is in an Infernal Roar set, so he's got about 36, 29, and he's just consistently doing that kind of damage. And then what's important, we'll go ahead and we'll wait until this enemy is killed. And then on the second wave, we'll pop both of the champions' ultimates so you can kind of compare them. And I've said this before, but if I say champions, I'm talking about heroes. I come from Raid Shadow Legends. They're called champions. Their champions makes more sense to me. So I'm just going to keep calling them champions. And you know what? You're just going to have to kind of deal with it. That being said, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification and all that sort of YouTube jazz if you want to see more of the content. This is a new channel that I'm using to dedicate to Watcher of Realms. So we'll go ahead and pop the ultimate here. And we are now going to hit for about 140k on his ultimate, which is just absolutely insane. So we wipe out the enemy team incredibly quickly there, right? We have some big dudes coming in. They have a little bit more defenses and health and all that sort of good stuff. So we're hitting for about 111k there. And we just absolutely shred them without really any sort of an issue, right? So we're doing about 29 to 36, I believe, on the basic attacks. And then we were hitting about 140 on that second enemy there. So let's go ahead and let's swap the gear over to our Seraphina and see what she is capable of doing. And I certainly don't want to update this. So this is quite nice that you can come in and test your defense like this, though, because it allows me to do a lot of testing with champions like this, which is incredible. So let's go ahead and locate that Seraphina, who is, again, going to be Awakened 5, right? So that's definitely something that's going to work in her favor. Now, the other thing with her, too, is since she's a mage, you actually get the bonus of being able to equip her inside a tier of Twilight. So I'm going to be giving her basically all of the bonuses or all of the things in her favor that she's capable of. So we're getting a maxed out tier of Twilight on her. And then this is kind of the gear that we're rocking here. So it's all of my Infernal Roar. And then we have Annihilating Might on the left-hand side there. So the gear is certainly good, but it's nothing too crazy by any means. It's pretty crazy, I'm not going to lie. And then we'll go ahead and we'll place Seraphina in here instead, and then we'll do the same kind of thing where we place down Cyrene and then essentially see what kind of damage that we are capable of. And keep in mind that between the rounds, so when she's not attacking somebody, she'll actually start to charge up her abilities, so that can make her very strong, right? And she's very similar to someone like a Zillitu in that way, because Zillitu charges up and gets stronger if there's nobody in her range. Now keep in mind, one big difference we're seeing already is just the cost difference, right? So Silas came in at that 12 cost, Seraphina is coming in at 19, so a significant difference there. We're doing about 79k on the basic hit, so you can already see she has significantly higher damage on the basic attacks, almost double, and this is with the exact same gear, right? So that's something to consider. We'll go ahead and we'll just let her attack this guy. We got about 140k there. This is absolutely insane, right? So she's tapping them down without really any issue there, which is pretty fantastic. We'll go ahead and pop her ult right away so she can start charging up. And you're going to see some magic here. Look at this. Just pops them for like 80k times 3, and the enemy is already dead. And if I'm not mistaken, that might have actually been faster than Silas as well, which is pretty crazy. And then she has that charged up again to pop, right? So if you think about single target arena, if you can manage to beat them, and then while they're over here and they're finishing their fight, she can be charging those, right? And that's something to consider, because she can essentially get extra stacks of her ability just to do extra damage into the enemy. Now the thing is, it's going to cycle your team a lot slower because she has such higher cost, right? But if you can use her with some sort of a rage regen champion, like an Eloin or a Laurel or something like that, she can do absolute work on your team, to say the least. Like, look at this. We're going to come in and we're going to pop, and boom. She, like, takes them down to, like, half HP, and she's chunking them for, like, a quarter per hit on her ultimate, which lasts for 10 seconds. Save that up once a bunch of single target people are trying to hit you, and she can do some work, certainly. Now, is she as good as Sylas? I don't know. Sylas is kind of just, you know, he's a legendary champion, right? Both literally and figuratively. So, take it with a grain of salt, right? Sylas is so fantastic in a lot of areas with his defense ignore and stuff like that. And outside of single target arena, you are kind of struggling to find an area where you're going to have single enemies coming at you just over, you know, a length of time. Because I do think that in wave-based content, Sylas is going to do a little bit better than her. But if you have some sort of an event like this where there's enemies just kind of slowly trickling into you, certainly maybe guild versus guild or something like that, right? For defenses, if you can put her into a decent area and she can chunk down the enemy tanks, that would be very strong for her as well, because she is a magic damage dealer, right? So we'll go ahead, we'll quit the battle here. The one last thing I want to showcase is essentially her, but without the maxed out tier of Twilight, because I know somebody in the comments is going to say, hey, you know, you got maxed out tier Twilight on her. Of course she's going to be good. Well, we'll go ahead and fix that. We'll throw her in with not a maxed out tier of Twilight. So let's just go ahead. Let's unequip that. And then let's go into the fight as well, right? So she has no artifact. So she's not going to be gaining any sort of attack bonuses or anything like that. And as I mentioned, this is going to be basically as fair of a comparison as you can possibly get between the two, because we're going against enemies that are going to scale on my BP, or my combat power, essentially, right? So it's scaling whenever I switch the gear and those sorts of things, versus if I was going against like a defense team in the arena, it's also going to scale on their power. So let's go ahead. Let's put her in here. She does about 49k on the basic hits. I think that's as opposed to like the 80? I want to say that it was doing last time, so you can see that it had the chance to be enhanced there. So the enhanced ones are doing the 88k, which is pretty cool. We're going to go ahead and let her just finish this wave on her own, and then of course we will pop the ultimate for the second wave and see what she's capable of, even without the maxed out tier of Twilight. And tier of Twilight is so strong because it employs its attack increasing effects after deployment. So any sort of buffs or anything like that you might have on her, and then boom, she's still chunking them down to almost half HP with a single hit of her ultimate. And as you can see, she takes them out without really too much concern, but you can definitely tell that there was the difference of about 30% attack on her there, right? So she took a little bit longer to take it down, but still a very competent damage dealer in my opinion. So that being said, hopefully this helped to make up your mind a little bit on if you want to use Seraphina inside your teams or not. I'd love to hear from you guys down below where you use her and how effective she is inside the team as well. That being said, as always, thank you guys all so much for watching. See you next time.